everyone, it's me, Ask Miss Cris. Today's tutorial for Crochet with Cris is actually something a lot of people think is complicated, but I'm here to show you how I break it down to do filet crochet. Now, before we pick up the hook and the yarn, I want to let you know that filet crochet starts here. That's right, a lot of planning. If you plan your filet ahead of time, it will actually work out a lot better in the end. Now, the concept of filet crochet, which maybe I'll throw a couple pictures in here to just examples, is it's filling in the holes. You do a mesh work and you fill in the holes to make a design or a picture, or you make a solid piece and you leave holes to create the design or the picture. I have done filet scarves. I like to use filet to do argyle. I don't do too many pictures per se, but I do use filet. So if you take the time to do a little bit of planning on your part using a good old graph paper and a pen, or in my case a marker, as you can see, you're gonna find that you're gonna end up in a better place. You're not gonna be frustrated because things don't line up. Now, a lot of people, when they're doing patterns, they look at the graph paper as each square is a stitch. When I do it, I do not look at that. Each line is a stitch, and then each space is a stitch when you're talking about filet, because you're going to be leaving holes. But if you fill in the hole, you got to be able to put a stitch in there, right? So the first, there's your 3, and then now every line you add 2 more stitches. And then when you get to where you want to leave holes, you just don't. But you still have to accommodate, because you're going to be putting a chain 1 at the top of each of these. If you fill it in, then you crochet into that loop. And if you leave it open, you don't. To give you an idea. So when I start a pattern, I have a sample over here that I'm going to crochet out, and we'll see how that looks. But basically when I start, I say, okay, I need 1 stitch. And I do 1. And then I say 2, 3, 4, and I just stagger the numbers to account for everywhere that I'm going to put a count of 1. And basically I'm determining now what my foundation chain is going to be. How many do I need? So you continue in this manner until you accommodate the design. Now, usually you could do the design out first and then do the numbers underneath it, or if you have an idea of the space that you want to accommodate, like you don't want to go over 30 stitches, which is roughly, 6-ish, 7, depending on your hook size, inches, then you pattern out 30 here and then make your pattern to fit the stitches, the number of stitches that you want. It really can go either way. And I apologize if this video might be a little confusing, but this is just kind of how I think through filet. I know I haven't done a real how to do filet, but I'm going to semi-cover this here. I might go back later and do something a little more in detail. So, just to keep going, so now we've staggered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know if we want to do anything this wide, do we need 13 stitches? No. I'll tell you, you always want to end in a space and then add 2. If you chain 2 to make the equivalent size of a double crochet, you add 2. If you chain 3, add 3. I always add 2 because I prefer the size of a chain 2 to my double crochet. And what this is going to do, this chain 2 is going to come up and it's going to make this stitch here. But you have to accommodate for that in your chain. So if we wanted to do a design that had 14, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces, we'd 14, 15, we'd need 16 stitches in our foundation chain. So what I've done to kind of show this, silly me, I came up with this. As you see, this is how I do it. I wanted my pattern to fit in this space, so I counted out my stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and staggered them out. I got to my chain 26 would take me to the space. I added 2 to get my chain of 28 stitches. So chain of 28 stitches is going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. If we do it right, we should have 13 spaces. Correct? So let's go ahead and look at that in theory. I did a chain of 28. Now I count this little loop here. My turning chain is a space. I will be using it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It translates out very easily. If you try to do this without using the graph paper or without thinking it through before you even touch the yarn, things are going to get a little ugly. You might make your chain too small, it could be too long, and nobody wants to deal with that. Usually when I pick up the yarn, I am ready to go. I don't want to sit and have to count it out at that point. It's true. So now, this here, this open row is this first row here. I have completed that row. I wish I had a highlighter because I would highlight it. So now when you're looking at this, we are now, we did our chain, we've gone this way. So now we are ready to work our way this way for row 2. And what this shows is we're going to start out, we're going to have to chain 2 to get the bar. And then we're going to do a chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So I'm going to have to do 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do my chain 2 and turn. Now I need to do the chain 1. All right, because that is my double crochet plus the chain 1 space. And we're going to double crochet into the top of the double crochet from the previous row. And now we are going to do a chain 1, double crochet 3 more times to make those 4 spaces. Filet is not that complicated, but I think, you know, what is intimidating is, one, you can see some of the examples are insanely impressive. But at the same time, you know, a lot of filet is worked with thread. Oops, I hit my board here. Thread is more complicated because it's smaller, it uses a smaller hook. You know, there's an amount of skill that goes with thread. But it doesn't mean you can't practice your filet on a larger size yarn or a bigger needle and come out with something just as pretty. You can filet scarves. I've done a ton of scarves with filet work. So now I've done, let's get back to our pattern. I have my 4 spaces, which are those 4. Now everything is filled in. So I'm going to do, instead of doing a chain 1 double crochet, I'm going to double crochet into the chain 1 space and double crochet into the next bar to fill in that hole. And I need to fill in, according to my chart, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. So we're going to double crochet into chain 1 and into the double crochet 5 times. So basically 10 more stitches. 1, 2. And you can fillet with other stitches. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't fillet with half double crochet or single crochet. It's just double crochet seems to be the standard. And for the tutorial, I figured I might as well just go with the standard. So I filled in with 2 holes. I need to fill in 3 more. So that was 4. There's 5. 6. 7. Thought I messed up there for a second with my counting. 8. 9 and 10. All right. So I should now have 4 spaces left because I did it balanced. I didn't put my face off to the side. And I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. The little, oh, sorry, you couldn't see that. So I filled in, let's see if I get this out of the way here. I filled in 5 holes and I have 4 left. 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the turn. So now I'm going to do the chain 1 double crochet 4 times. And that's going to create the 4 holes at the other side of the mouth. You know, it's important with filet that you, especially when you're writing your own patterns, you pay attention to the direction. Like I went this way, now I'm going that way. You know, I went to the right with my foundation chain. I went to the left with the 13 spaces. Now I'm working my way right again to do the bottom piece of the mouth. You know, when you get, obviously, something a little more crochet intense than a little smiley face on some worsted weight yarn, your counting and your direction will become more complicated. You know, it's more so just a warning that that is going to happen. Chain one, and then we're going to do a double crochet into the turning chain. Ta-da! All right, we have the bottom of the mouth completed here. So now we go back to our graph paper. We went this way, this way, this way. Now we're coming, we have finished this row, and now we're working towards the left. So the left, it looks like we have 3 open fillets, a filled in fillet, 5 open, a filled in, and 3 space. So we're just basically going to repeat. We're going to do the chain 2, which is this stitch here, and then we're going to add the chain 1 for the space. So 1, 2, plus the chain 1 for the space. And we are going to double crochet in to create that first hole. We're going to do the same thing, crochet into the top of that double crochet, because you want it to be a nice straight bar. You don't want your mesh to be zigzaggy. You want it to be straight. So we're going to chain 1. And we're going to do a chain 1 double crochet 2 more times to get the 3 spaces dictated by our pattern on our graph paper. Right. The television's getting too loud. I apologize for that too. So now I have 3 open holes and I'm ready to fill in 1. So I just do a double crochet into the chain 1 space below and a double crochet into the top of that double crochet that's next. So I've now filled this spot in. I'm building out here now. So I need to do a chain 1 double crochet 5 times, and that's going to give me the 5 holes. Now, we have filled in underneath it. There is no chain 1 space to skip or to indicate you need to skip. So you have to know when you're doing a space above a filled in that you're going to skip 1 stitch. So when you do your double crochet, it lines up to the post 2 rows below. There's 1 space, we skip 1, 2 space, chain 1, skip 1. There's our 3rd space. As you see, filet crochet really isn't that bad if you understand the base concepts and you always start with your chart first. You don't want to, you could jump in and freestyle it if you really, really wanted to. But I'm going to say, especially if you're just beginning, don't. Start out with some graph paper. Make your own graph paper. Print a piece of graph paper off the internet from somewhere. But don't just jump in. So now I've done my 5 holes. I'm ready to fill in the next box. So that's a double crochet into the chain 1 space and into the next double crochet. And yes, this would be a lot slower if we were working in thread. Now as you see by here, you're going to start seeing your squares, and we know that we need 3 empty, right here, 1, 2, 3, 3 boxes. So we're going to chain 1 double crochet 3 times. Basically, that's all it is to fillet. This is the open mesh, then we're filling in the holes. Let's go ahead and move this so you can get an idea. Oh, my yarn keeps hitting my board here. Now, you can get an idea. The bottom of the mouth, and here's where it starts turning up. The more you add to it, the more people are going to be able to see it, and especially if you block it, especially when you're talking with thread. You're going to see that filled in more. This, as I said, is a case of the mesh where you fill in the holes. We could create the face the exact opposite, where we do solid double crochets and leave holes where we filled in the pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off, and I will be back with my finished little funny face and some final words. Hello everybody, I am back, and I have finished up doing my filet pattern, and I will say it doesn't show up as well as I had wished, mostly because the yarn is so bulky. When you use thread, filet shows up a lot better. So here's my face that I sketched out. Here with the dark board you can see there's the mouth, the nose, and the eyes. So I have finished it. You can block it out to bring out the filet just a little bit more. Like I said, with thread, you're going to see it a lot better. So there's my smiley face, made just for you, explaining how I work through creating a filet image. You can use them, you can do the inverted like with scarves to do monograms and scarves and hats and things like that. And it's always fun to put a personal touch. And you're not always going to find the chart that you want. If there's a chart that you would like me to sketch out, I would offer to do that as long as it doesn't get too insane and I don't get too many offers or requests. I think I might start putting some of my charts on Ravelry as well. You can get my Ravelry link and my Twitter and all of that on my blog, which I'll link down in the doobly-doo. But I think what I mostly wanted to say about filet at this point is that make sure before you jump in with doing your own pattern, to save yourself the frustration, don't be scared to grab the graph paper. It's a lot easier to redraw something or resketch something out than have to look at 30, 40 rows of thread crochet that you've worked hours on and know that you need to frog it. Filet should not, don't let it intimidate you. It's nothing more than filling in the holes or leaving holes where you want a picture to be. As I said, your mesh is pretty much just a single post. You do not want it to stagger. You want it to be straight boxes with the posts going straight down through each one. You do not want them staggered like a checkerboard. So I guess with that said, that's all I have on this. I know it's a really long tutorial. It's not necessarily an exact how-to, but it definitely, I think, helps you work through filet and maybe not be as intimidated by it. I look forward to seeing what you are able to create from that, which I would say, based on that statement alone, I am asking for you to show me your filet. If you already have a video, feel free to attach it as a video response, create a video response, or shoot me a link to your blog where I can find an image of your crochet. I would love to see your creations. I think it's inspiring. It looks so intricate, and it's just really nice that it can, like I said, it can really add that personal touch to any piece that you're doing. With that said, I hope everybody has a fantastic evening and happy crocheting.